Bore da i chi gyd, a diolch fawr iawn i chi am ymuno gyda ni ar gyfer ein Gweminar cadw mewn cysylltiad heddi. Good morning to you all, hope you're all keeping well, and thank you very much for joining us for our Keep in Touch webinar. Rydym yn gweithio adre, felly ymddeiriadau ymlaen llaw, a mynd i'w sŵn yn y cefndir ac unrhyw oedi yn y sleidiau. We are all working from home, therefore I apologise in advance for any background noise and any delay in the slides. Fe gallwch ddod o hyd i bob recordiad o'n gwemynarau blaenorol ar ein gwefan Sgiliau i Gymru. You can access the recordings to all previous webinars on our Skills for Wales website. Fe fyddwch yn derbyn e-bost cyn diwedd y gweminar gyda link i'n harolwg. Byddem yn ddiolchgar iawn pethach yn cymryd yr amser i lenwi ein harolwg, am bod eich adborth yn werthfawr iawn i ni. You will receive an email before the session ends with a link to a survey. We would be very grateful if you could take the time to fill in this survey, as your feedback is very valuable to us. Felly dyma i chi ein cyflwynwyr heddi. Here are your presenters today. Mae gyda ni Ian Roberts, sydd yn gynghorydd technegol adeiladwaith i City and Guilds. David Pye, sydd yn gynghorydd technegol peirianneg a gwasanaethau adeiladu i City and Guilds. Kevin Sparrow, sydd yn arbenigedd cynnyrch i EL. Jason Marsland, sydd hefyd yn arbenigedd cynnyrch i EL. A hefyd Andrew Neil, sydd yn cydlynydd ansawdd i City and Guilds, a fi yn Harald Lawd Fainan. To hear your presenters today, we have Ian Roberts, who's a technical advisor for City and Guilds. We have David Pye, who's a technical advisor for BSc for City and Guilds. Jason Marsland and Kevin Sparrow, who are both product specialists at EAL, and also Andrew Neil, who's the quality coordinator at City and Guilds, and myself, Angharad Lloyd Fainan. Felly dyma chi beth byddwn ni'n mynd dros y bore yma. Fe fyddwn ni jyst yn rhoi crynodeb i'ch atgoffa chi o'r cymhwysterau newydd yma. Fe fyddwn yn hefyd yn edrych ar y gymhwyster newydd lefel 3. Fe fyddwn yn edrych ar yr amlinelliad o'r asethiadau. Fe fyddwn hefyd yn edrych ar yr adnoddau dysgu sydd ar gael i chi. Ac hefyd fyddwn yn rhoi diweddariad i chi ar gyfer cymeradwyo canolfan. Yna fe fyddwn yn sicrhau eich bod yn barod ar gyfer darparu'r cymwysterau yma ym mis Medi. Ar y diwedd, fe fydd yna gyfle i chi ofyn gwestiynau i ni. Plis manteisiwch ar y cyfle yma gan roi eich cwestiynau yn y tab cwestiynau sydd ar y llaw dde o'ch sgrin. This is what we'll be going over this morning. We'll have a quick recap for you to look over the new qualifications. We'll be looking at the new level 3 qualification. We'll also give you an outline of the assessment. We'll also take a look at the learning resources that are available for you. And then we'll be giving you a centre approval update, and then we'll be ensuring that you're ready to deliver these qualifications in September. At the end, there will be an opportunity for you to ask us any questions. Therefore, please type in any questions that you may have in the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. Hoffwn nawr eich trosglwyddo i Kevin Sparrow, a fydd eich tywys trwy y sleidiau nesaf. I would now like to pass you over to Kevin Sparrow, who will take you through the next few slides. Diolch, Kevin. Thank you.
Thanks, Angharad. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of the timeline of the qualification availability, the qualifications available, and the look of the new documents. So first of all, looking at the timeline of delivery from 2021, and thinking about the typical learner profiles given in options A, B and C. Learner A could undertake the foundation qualification in 2021 and then successfully achieve an apprenticeship and embark on that in 2022. Learner B could undertake a foundation qualification or level 1 in 2021, which could be an existing level 1 trade-based qualification, such as level 1 diploma in electrical installation, before moving into the level 2 progression qualification in 2022, and then onto an apprenticeship. Learner C is the route for apprentices who embark on this route typically straight from school. So the new level 3 apprenticeship qualifications will be operational in 2022. As per recent communications, there is dual running of existing and new qualifications for the next academic year, and the existing apprenticeship provision will continue for next academic year as well. Next slide, please. So we're just going to have a brief look at the new qualifications available on the next slide. Thank you. So just to give a recap of the qualifications that will be delivered for apprentices in September 2022 onward. EAL are delivering 4 level 3 building services qualifications, 1 in plumbing and heating, 2 in heating and ventilation, and 1 in electrotechnical installation. They all vary in size depending on the trade, ranging from 672 guided learning hours to 1,176 guided learning hours. And the GLH and TQT reflects existing qualification sizes. Next slide, please. City and Guilds are delivering the construction trades and have on offer qualifications for dry lining, roof slating and tiling, groundworks, plant operations, timber frame erection, bricklaying, architectural joinery, site carpentry, painting and decorating, solid plastering, and wall and floor tiling. In addition to the qualification number is the product code 8042 for the construction suite. Next slide, please. So just to give a recap on the new material and how it looks and feels. It will be joint branded with the EAL and City and Guilds logo. Centres will have a qualification manual, which is the handbook, which details the centre requirements, the qualification content, requirements for centre staff, and a summary of the assessment coverage. You will also have an assessment pack, which gives in-depth information on the assessment requirements, such as the online exams specifications, on-site practical project requirements, and the information needed to prepare the learner for the externally assessed professional discussion. These will also be available in the Welsh language and will be available very shortly over the next 3 weeks on the Skills for Wales website. Next slide, please. So this slide is to indicate how the building services electrotechnical qualifications units cross over to the progression qualification and are also common, all the same, to other building services qualifications. So if you are delivering the progression qualification in the electrical pathway, all content in the units indicated in green would have already been delivered, would have already been achieved by the learner. The units in blue represents units which share content which is very similar or identical to other level 3 building services trades, i.e. plumbing and heating and ventilation. But in each trade, where relevant, the content has been contextualized for the trade. So this can show how in each trade qualification there is an economy of scale between common elements, which will help in the delivery in the new suite of qualifications. Thank you for listening. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Jason Marsland, Plumbing and Heating Specialist at EAL. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everyone. So what I want to do now is just go through the summary of the assessments that you'll be doing within the level 3. So as we've seen before, we've got an on-screen assessment, practical projects, and professional discussion. So there is a theme throughout all the foundation, the progression, and the level 3s. We're using the same assessment methods, and the weighting is the same. So for the on-screen assessment, it's got a 20% weighting towards the grade. Practical projects is 60%, and the professional discussion 20%. Next slide, please, Ian. Okay, so I just want to talk you through these in a bit more detail. So for the on-screen assessment, if we first look at the construction and the plumbing and heating and vent, they will have 2 on-screen tests. The electrical has these as well. There is a reason why I've highlighted electrical, which I'll go through in a minute. So these will be a test 1 and a test 2. Now, if the learner has done the progression in the same trade, so any of the constructions or BSc, it's the same trade. Test 1 is the same test that they will do in the progression and will be carried over into the level 3. So they will just have to complete test 2. The reason I identified the electrical, that has an additional on-screen test. So there will be 3 for the electrical. The first 2 follow the same path as the others. The third one is specific to electrical. As we move on to the practical project, again, it's following the same program that we had before, which is planning, performing, and evaluating. This is graded past a distinction. It must be taken before the professional discussion. That's because a professional discussion will look at the practical project and reflect on there, any lessons learned and things like that. There is an additional safety critical practical test which fits in with a HMV and electrical. This has to be passed, but it is only pass or refer, but it must be achieved for the HMV trades and the electrical. So as I've started to mention about the professional discussion, it does reflect on the practical project, and this one is going to be externally assessed by the awarding body, so either EAL or City and Guilds, and it will be externally marked by us. This can only be done, the professional discussion, once the practical project's done and the employer confirmation has been completed. So they're the stipulations on this one. Next slide, please, Ian. Now, what I want to do here, I just want to quickly look at the practical project, because the MCQs, the online exam, professional discussion, just build on what you've done previously. There is a slight difference on the practical project, which I will go through. Before we can start any of the practical project, the centre, the learner, and the employer will sit down and they will agree up to 4 tasks that the learner will complete while working on site that will cover the criteria within the assessment pack. This criteria has been called the minimum assessment content, and we've shortened it to MAC. So they must satisfy all of the MAC within these 4 tasks. Now, it could be done within 1 task, 2 tasks, anything up to 4 tasks. Once they've all been agreed, then the assessment can take place. So the planning is approximately 12 hours. That will be, the learner will produce a plan for each of the tasks that they have identified. So that could be up to 4 plans that they need to do. Each of those plans must achieve a threshold pass. So it will need marking before they can go on, but only to make sure it achieves a threshold pass. Only the plan for the largest job undertaken will be used for the grade, the marks towards the overall grade. And the largest job is considered to be the job from which the largest number of criteria will be evidenced. Okay, so now the performing. We've already identified the 4 tasks that are going to be carried out. There will be 3 observations over those tasks. Okay, so the assessor will come out and carry out these 3 observations in the workplace. What we can also use here is a member of staff from the employer who's been agreed and had all the relevant training. They can act as an expert witness. Now, this evidence can only be evidence identified in the agreed 4 tasks and will only be used by the assessor to support their decisions. It will not replace the on-site requirements from the assessor. So it's to supplement their decisions and help them make them. And then as we move on to the evaluating, which is 12 hours, again, it's pretty much what we've done before. We're just building up on it. So they're going to be used to planning, performing, and evaluating, and they're going to evaluate the biggest job that they did. So again, a common theme going through, the main difference is the assessment is based on the minimum assessment content, which is pre-agreed with the assessor, learner, and employer beforehand into 4 tasks or up to 4 tasks. Okay, next slide, please. Right, so again, I'm just going to give you a quick summary of the assessment. So the MCQs, you're all very familiar with them. It's externally set, it's auto marked, so you will get your results usually the same day. The practical project, internally marked, externally verified. Provisional marks will be awarded following the initial assessment. We'll look at the overall qualification results in a minute. The practical discussion, it's externally set and externally assessed. As we've said before, it will be from the awarding body relevant to which trade area you're doing that will come and do that. So the overall qualification results, so we've got the provisional grades. They will then go through internal and external quality assurance, and then your final grade will be issued by City and Guilds for the construction, EAL for the BSc. There is opportunities to do resubmissions and resits of the assessment. They're highlighted in the assessment pack. And again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there are requirements that sit against each resubmission or resit, depending which assessment it is. Next slide, please, Ian. Okay, now this may be the first site for some of you, or some of you may be already aware of the employer confirmation. So basically, this document helps the employer sign off the work that the learner's doing on site. Rather than trying to struggle looking through the units to look what they need to do, it's been articulated in this document. It's very concise. We can have 4 employers watching them, so making sure the learner's working at that level or above, so that they're consistently doing that. So this is what we've got. This document will put it together. The employer and the learner will do this. It will then be brought into the centre for the centre to say, yes, it's all been completed. And it will be, as a quality check, we will make sure the document's completed. Okay, next slide, please, Ian. And on this one, I'd just like to say here, it's just a reminder, the resources are available and more are coming online. So the foundation, the majority, if not all of them, will be on the Skills for Wales website as we speak. And progression, that stuff's being filtered in. And as Kevin said earlier, the materials for the level 3 will be put onto that site within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So this site really for me, or this slide, is really to remind you to keep going back to that Skills for Wales website. It's really useful. More materials are being put on a weekly basis, so just keep going back and just keep making sure you've got all the documents you need. Get yourselves familiar with them. So that's really useful there. What we're doing is we're also putting links to existing resources by third parties. And CPD materials, we're going to be sending out a quarterly newsletter. So again, this is just a reminder of what we've said before, but it is key that you keep going back to that website to keep checking for the documents and keep reading them, familiarising yourself with them. Next slide, please, Ian. And also at this point, I'd like to pass over to Andrew. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrew Neal. I work for City and Guilds in the Cardiff office. I'm just going to take you through the customer journey. So the application is available to download from the Skills for Wales website. Once it's completed, you just need to send it to skillsforwalesquality@cityandguilds.com. We will then share the application with EAL. So you only need to do one application to cover both construction and BSc. You need to complete all sections except section if you're in an existing centre. You don't need to complete section B, which is about policies, etc. You will be allocated an external quality assurer who will look at your approval and he will then complete an approval report. And we will then communicate with you in writing whether you've been approved or not. There are 3 approval stages. There's approved with actions, and there's declined. Normally, if it's approved with actions, the action will be for the sort of the next visit. If it's declined, there will be actions which will need to be completed prior to gaining approval. Can I have slide here? These are private qualifications. It's an offline application because, unfortunately, the City and Guild, Gweminar, and the EAL systems don't talk to each other. You only need to complete the application form for City and Guild and the EAL. No matter whether you're a new or existing centre, all centres must complete the application form. And there's no charge for centre or qualification approval. Next slide, Ian. You can expect a decision within 30 days of receipt of working days into the application. We do try to stick to, sometimes it's not possible, but we will try and stick to 30 days. Separate approvals must be submitted. So if you've got 2 centres, say one in Cardiff, one in Swansea, they've both got different centre numbers, you'd have to submit an application to site. Would need to have them. We can't do one application for 2 sites. Centres, you don't need to develop new recording materials. You can just adapt the current IQA plans and whatever suits your centre. And now I'd like to hand over to Ian, I think it is next.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. We're now going to pass you over to David Pye. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Ian. Apologies about some of the sound quality there. It was a little bit hit and miss, but hopefully you picked up most points. We can always pick up some further points when we take the questions in a short while. I see there's been some questions coming through. Some we've tried to respond to. Some we'll leave till we've finished the last few slides. But this slide, and there's only a couple left now, is really to some questions for yourselves. So as you're setting up and getting ready, hopefully for September, and I know it's a very busy time for centres at the moment. We've all worked at centres before, and at the end of the year, you're looking to get your outcomes, your achievements through completing learners, carrying out reports and so on. We know it's very, very busy, but hopefully you're trying to find some time to look at preparing for September if you're delivering these qualifications from September. Hopefully you'll have admin and CPD weeks booked in where you can hopefully have a sit down and have a look at some of this. But let's just go through some of this self-preparation check. And we do have this on a Word document to support you in your preparation for delivery. So have you planned your delivery of the new qualification content? So do you know who is delivering which units and when? Now I know we're probably telling you things that you probably know already in terms of planning to deliver new qualifications. You've probably done this numerous times before, but I think it can help to have someone prompt you sometimes and refresh your memory, and it just jogs you to think, oh crikey, yeah, I probably need to have a look at that. That's the intention of this anyway. So if you are delivering in September, do you know which units you'll be delivering yourself? Are you team teaching? Are you delivering it all the units yourselves, or will there be 2 or 3 tutors delivering? Have you planned the practical learning? So will you do 50% in the workshop, 50% in classroom? Is it 60-40? Will you do a full day in the workshop or just 2 half days? How will that work? Are you aware of how that works yet? Do you know how you will approach your induction for learners? Quite a key one, this. We can easily miss. We're used to doing inductions. We do them every year. We often have our material ready and we reuse or just refresh last year's. But if you're running new courses, or even if you're not running the new courses in September, but you are the year after, these learners will be joining the education system and working through a period of change. Have you built in this awareness into your inductions, into your parents' evenings, into the evenings that you run to promote your providers? So have a think about the new qualifications, the transition requirements, which which we have on one of the slides, which we can share. You know, we should be building some of this in to make the learners aware. Have you completed a draft delivery planner? We've pushed these on previous webinars, and if you do this, it can be a working document. You can sit down, you can tick off where you think you're going to deliver everything, and then as you deliver it, as always, all the best plans can change. But this can be, as I say there, shared with staff and amended to show any pinch points to delivery. That probably rolls on to point number 5 there. Do you know which month you plan to start assessments? I think that's really key. You know, it's do you know how long the assessments will take? How many learners do you have? Do you have one small group, or do you have 3 large groups? How much workshop space do you have? Are you planning in the guided discussion? When will that take place? When will you book learners in for the Evolve assessments? It's only when we know all this and we know how much time that will take, do we know what dates we're working towards. And in some of my experience of working with numerous providers on some of the recent changes, more predominantly in England over the last couple of years, that the providers who acknowledge that it is going to be different, our delivery is going to be different, as difficult as that may be, they really do have a better experience in the delivery of it. Centres who feel as though, well, you know, it's only going to change near the end of the year, I'll have a look at the assessments then, it's pretty much just delivering what we've done before, they tend to get caught out with some of those pinch points, in my experience. So even if you have lots of questions, you may be uncomfortable with parts of it, you may be unsure about parts, if you're looking at those things and you are aware of them, you're already better prepared for the delivery next year. So do you know when to complete them? Do you know how many per week? Do you know when you're running them? Point number 6, have you had an internal meeting to discuss delivery and assessment? Again, another one that's probably key. I've no doubt you have regular meetings and you probably bring in these points up at different times of the year and the week. But have you had an actual half day or full day meeting, the full team, maybe an admin week or a CPD week, because I've no doubt you're all too busy in a normal week to find such amount of time to plan. But if you could find a half a day or a full day in one of those type of weeks I've mentioned, you could sit down, you could look at the delivery planner, you could look at the content, you could look at the assessments, all of that material for much of the courses is available. There are still some bits of information to come out, but there's a lot already available on the Skills for Wales website. There's the previous webinars that we've run, if you need a refresher on the courses, all been recorded on the Skills for Wales website. There's the handbook for the foundation and sample assessments, and there's other bits of information as well. And when you have that meeting, document it. You know, so often when I've worked as an EQA, I'll go into centres and they've done some good planning, and when I ask for evidence of it, I know it's gone ahead because when you talk to people, they tend to know what they're doing and when, but there's nothing documented. It's an excellent way of showing your EQA that planning has taken place. You know, there's no better internal quality assurance than that starting point where everyone's got together and planned how they will deliver the programme and the assessments. So make sure you document that, set of meetings, a rationale of your approach, your delivery planner. All of this contributes to your IQA. And if you're doing the work anyway, you know, hopefully you document it anyway, but if not, it's just a reminder, again, a bit of a refresher to document the activities that you do. So we can share this as a document to support providers who are looking to run it certainly this year, but even if you're looking at the following year, I think there's some key things in there, particularly around induction and understanding the delivery, and hopefully this is a nice little jogger a memory reminder so you can have a peep at this and help you prepare and plan. So the next slide, please, Ian. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pause, and what I'll do is I'll open up the questions. I know there's been some coming through. So everything we've spoke about there, any queries or questions you have at all, please start to type away. The first one, which I think I'll ask my colleague Ian Roberts, with regards to progression, when are the resources going to be ready?
Yes, thank you, David, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The resources should be ready by the end of July. What we're working on at the moment is just finalising the foundation ones, and the progression ones are about 80% there at this moment in time. And if anybody would like access to the progression content, resources, if you'd like to drop the Skills for Wales website an email and ask for being able to allocate the resources, what will happen then is, under the GDPR rules, of course, we'll then forward your email on to the gentleman who will allocate you the opportunity to view all the resources for the progression on the team site that's currently there at this moment in time. Until all the resources, sorry David, until all the resources are in Welsh and in English, that's the reasons why we can't upload them at this moment in time. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Ian. Apologies, I cut over you there then. Several more questions. The next one, probably for Ian, and I don't know if Jason and Kevin can shed any light on the BSc equivalent to this query as well. How is the level 3 going to be linked to the CSCS card?
I think it's back to me, David, to start off with. The way it's linked to the CSCS card is that the employer confirmation guide is fully linked across and mapped across to the occupational competency statements that's there. Not only that, the level 3 units as well, qualification, is also mapped to the employer guide as well as the occupational competency statements. But to support what CSCS are requiring is that's the main reasons why the employer confirmation guide is there for, because although it's not part of the qualification, it's there to help support that learner gain access to their CSCS card. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Jason and Kevin, I don't know if there's an equivalent answer with BSc.
Yeah, David, I can certainly say for the heating and ventilation trades, I've been in conversation with BISA in relation to the skills card. The aim is obviously it will be recognised by the industry, or it will be. And also with the electrotechnical, similar conversations with the GIB and ECS in relation to it being recognised. So it's just almost a formality. Any industry qualification will go through the various committees they have, just so they can look at it, understand what it's all about, and therefore it can be assigned at the appropriate grade. So we're just working out the learner journeys with those industry bodies. Also, we'll be speaking, this is for the electrotechnical, speaking to the ECS committee to make sure it's recognised for competence person schemes. So the qualifications will be fully industry recognised. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kevin. The next question, will it be delivered by external assessor or a recording sent to the external assessor? I presume this is talking about the guided or professional discussion. I can probably answer that. Certainly on the foundation, it's a guided discussion which is carried out by an assessor at the centre and is with audio recorded. Well, that's for the purposes of quality assurance. The assessor in the centre will carry out the guided discussion assessment. For the level 3, it is a professional discussion carried out by an assessor from the awarding organisation. I think Jason put a note about that a little bit earlier. Is that correct, Jason? Can you add anything else to that answer?
Yeah, just to reiterate what you said, really, yes, the professional discussion for the level 3 will be carried out, all of it in entirety, by an external assessor. So to answer the question from the second one, it's going to be delivered by an external assessor. They will record it. So for the centre, there is no involvement apart from preparing the learner with a professional discussion. That is all carried out by an external assessor that will be appointed by the relevant AO to come in and do that. Has that answered the question on that one?
May I just add a little bit, just to reinforce, because this has cropped up before, these external assessors will be occupationally competent in that particular field. For construction especially, they will not be generic. They'll be occupationally competent in the specific trade of pathway. Sorry to interrupt, but thank you.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Hopefully that answers the question. But what you'll often find is when there's a question answered, it may create further questions. So if there's follow-up questions to these, please do type them away. Or if we've misunderstood what you were asking, please, again, just continue to type your questions away. We can also unmute you as well. And if you want to describe what your query is, we can have a conversation. It doesn't have to be just typed. If you prefer to describe it to us, please just put a note in there and we can unmute you. The next question, are the assessments on the website for bricklaying definite? I was part of a focus group and asked about the plans, made proposed changes. Just confused, that's all. I'll ask it in a moment specifically around bricklaying, but I do know with the foundation qualification, there's a sample assessment. This has caused some confusion and has come up in the questions quite a lot. Right, okay, Martin. What I'll do is I'll unmute you and you can maybe expand on that just to make sure I've fully understood. But just to say that they are samples. We had to produce samples to show people and to get approval for the qualifications. Because then that's been used as such, it can't be used as the official assessment, but it will be very, very similar. All it will be is tweaks, so it's not exactly the same. So in terms of feedback that we've had quite a lot across different trades. We will consider those tweaks when we create the live ones in September. Try to unmute you now, Martin. I'll just have to find your name on there. If you just bear with me a moment. I think in alphabetical order, which makes it a little bit easier. There you go, Martin. We should be able to hear you now.
Yeah, cheers, David. Can you hear me all right?
Perfect. How are you, Martin?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, it was just regards to progression in bricklaying. Now, I was part of the focus group with that. I met with Phil and Roberts a couple of times. And, you know, I know you just said then that the bricklaying progression is just samples at the moment. But the problem is, when I spoke to colleagues in my team and across building players throughout Wales, you know, who puts coping stones on walls nowadays? It's all to do with tile creasing, either or brick on edge and oversailor. What we should be doing is making these sort of like plans more realistic to the candidates we're out for work. So I don't know of anybody who really puts coping stones on walls now. It's always brick on edge, oversailor, or tile creasing and brick on edge. So I spoke to Phil about this. I just wanted to know whether these thoughts are getting considered. As you just mentioned, they are samples, but we need to be realistic when it comes to students building the practical tasks in the workshop. Thank you.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Martin. Ian, did you?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your comments, Martin. To be honest, we have had people as well come out and saying they do still put copings on, and you're right, they also put tile creasing courses on as well as brick on edges as well. So I agree with your comments entirely. I think it's like any assessment, we've got to make sure it is valid and authentic, and I've no doubt that's what will happen. So any comments that's been fed back in, I've no doubt they will have taken that on board. Because like yourselves at this moment, even we don't know what the assessments are going to look like. They're currently being developed, ready for the next academic year, which will be for 2022. Moving on a little bit quick now, years, I fully understand. But hopefully you'll be able to visually see them, because obviously you've got to plan, get the relevant resources in. early in your academic year. So either September, October, you will have sight of the assessments. But once they're set, then they are set, of course, and that's what's got to be done. As long as you do not, I mean, the main part of it is that we don't share them with the learners. It's for the tutors, so they understand what materials and resources they're going to need. So there's credibility on both sides, really, because learners still put copings on. I've spoke to one or two other people as well, and they've mentioned it. But all feedback that you've given will be brought in, and I have no doubt if the tile creasing and brick on edge isn't in on this next academic year, I've no doubt it'll be definitely in the year after, because it's got to be built in over time as that anyway. I hope that answers your questions and reassures you, Martin.
Thanks, Ian. Hopefully that's reassured you, Martin. But again, any further queries, please do type, and you're welcome for the answer. The next question then, moving on, is there any examples of delivery planners for planning next year? We have done an example for the foundation. We were a bit cautious about sharing an example because in our experience, people tend to take them as read and think, this is the way it has to be done. And of course, in our experience, providers are probably more experienced in the delivery and understand their learners better and their delivery models, and can do a more accurate job themselves. And we suspect every provider will do it slightly differently. Some providers may do one unit, complete it, go on to the next unit, complete it, do formative assessments in between. Some providers may want to run 2 or 3 units concurrently over a longer period of time, and then do periodic assessments, their own formative assessments in between. So there are numerous different ways of approaching it. You may have a small group, or you may have 3 or 4 large groups, which would probably impact on how you're going to approach your assessments, which again would change it. So yes, on the Skills for Wales website, there is an exemplar and there is a blank, but we just urge you to look at the exemplar with caution. It really is just an example of how you may fill it in, rather than a suggestion of how you should deliver it. I hope that answers your query. Moving on, if we come to Jason now. So for the level 3 qualification, will there be any practical assessments carried out in centre or in the workshop?
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, no, for the level 3, all the practical will be carried out on site. So there will be up to 4 tasks that are agreed prior to the planning before the assessments take place. So there'll be up to 4 tasks that they complete out on site, and there will be 3 assessment visits out on site. So no, there is nothing that's carried out within the centre's workshop. Hopefully that's answered the question.
Thank you very much, Jason. So the questions seem to have dried up a little now. So please have a think about any queries that you might have and type those in. But what we'll do is we do have a couple of slides just to finish off. So if we don't get any questions in the next few moments, we can move on, finish a couple of slides. We can always double back to the questions. If you think of any further queries, we can always double back. But there's no further. Right, okay, we just had one come in. Regarding the GLH for the level 3 electrotech qualification, what is the split between college time and on-site time? So Kevin, I don't know if you can help answer that question, please. We can't hear you, Kevin, if you're maybe you're on mute.
Hi, David. Sorry about that. I'm clicking between screens and I couldn't find the unmute button. So bear with me. Yes, what I'll do, I think leave that with me because I'll have to go and look at the split, but it's very similar to what current apprentices would do. So when we were looking at guided learning hours and total qualification time, we did look broadly across what happens currently and has happened historically. So if it's okay, I'll look for an answer if you can carry on the session, and then I'll be able to give an indication, hopefully in a couple of minutes, because I'll have to go and have a look at the documents if that's okay.
Certainly, thanks, Kevin. We've got another question and we've got a couple of slides to finish off. If we don't manage to answer any of your questions whilst we're on this actual webinar, we will take them away, and in our follow-up we can add the responses in there. Sometimes we need to gather some further answers ourselves from our colleagues internally, and this next one may be one of those as well. Do we know when the information will be provided with regards to funding for this apprenticeship structure? I'm going to come to Ian in a moment, but I believe that the apprenticeship frameworks are yet to be quite finalised, even though we're working on the qualification that sits within that framework. Ian, are you able to expand on that any, please?
I can shed some light definitely on the construction side. There's meetings currently taking place, and I think well, I know for a fact there's another meeting taking place tomorrow, and that's between CITB, Qualifications Wales and the Welsh Government, where they will finalise the apprenticeship frameworks moving forward. And then, provided they all can agree, I've no doubt we'll hear in the very near future. But as far as we are concerned, we are still waiting, like yourselves, what the actual framework will be moving forward. So I know it don't give you a definitive answer, but at least I can shed some light that meetings are taking place and we should know within the next couple of months for definite. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. That's really helpful. And sometimes the answer isn't there straight away, and it's better that I think providers know that things are happening and people are meeting and they are working towards these answers. So at least you know it is ongoing. Another question is coming. Is it mandatory that the 3 years are attended by all students, even if they are capable of doing the original level 3 without doing level 2? So, I mean, that's probably, if I come to Jason or Kevin initially on that, and then possibly Ian can follow up.
Yes, I'll say.
Go on, Jason.
Yeah, I was going to say, what you've got to look at with this is the learning. You've got to cover all the units within the qualifications. So if they're coming straight in at the level 3, they will do the foundation core, and then they will do the level 3 qualification, which does contain all the level 2 units within it. So again, it's just about, you will know your learners. They will have to do all the content and be assessed on everything. It's how you run that with the learners is down to yourself, but they will have to cover everything within the qualification. So that's the foundation core, the level 3 units and the nested level 2 units. Do you want to add anything to that, Kevin?
I think that's it, really. I mean, it's only guided learning hours. So, you know, the average learner, if we look at the learner profiles, I think it was learner C, you think about, which is a schoolie, typically they would take the total apprenticeship time. But obviously some learner journeys could be, you know, truncated if the learner's, you know, for example, a mature student or has that prior progression experience. So it's really dependent on the learner, but I'd imagine typically it would follow more or less what current programs would be delivered in, if that supplements Jason's answer.
2 very good answers, I think. Yes, I hope that's answered the question. Again, if it's not exactly what you were looking for, or you want us to expand on that, please let us know. I'm just trying to jot down the comments that Kevin and Jason.
It's the same, David, and it's the same in construction. The core qualification to do, and then they step into the level 3, of course. And like Jason said, provided they cover all the range and the content within the units and the various assessments, then, and again, like Kevin said, the guided learning hours are a guide to be able to work towards. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, I think what we'll do then is we'll move on to the final couple of slides, and then we'll double back just to see if there are any final questions. So if we're okay, just moving on the slide. So here we are, yet again asking for your feedback, and there's 2 really important reasons why we do this. First of all, we're providing this support through various sources. That's through email, through these webinars. We've done some Teams calls, and we're hoping to be face to face very soon once we're allowed to be with all the current safety precautions. We need to know what type of support you find valuable, what type of support you would like moving forward. This is your opportunity to say how you would like to shape that support. How much is too much? How much is too little? We want to get the balance and the approach correct. And the best people to ask are yourselves. Also, if things are going well, it's great for us to hear that also. If you'd like some tweaks or there's things that you don't think is working very well, please let us know that, and then we can act upon it. It's always logged officially when it comes through these feedback forms and goes to our central teams who disseminate that across the consortium. It also helps us if we're looking to put on extra sessions for providers. If providers enjoy or find valuable what we're doing and they can document that on the feedback, it helps ourselves, myself, Ian and Harrod, Jason, Kevin, to go back to the consortium managers and say, look, you know, it's very valuable, look at the feedback, and centres would value more of these, and it helps us put on more sessions. So we'd really welcome that if you could just take a couple of minutes to complete some feedback. Okay, I think there's just one more slide left, if memory serves correctly. So what we've done is we're just sharing a couple of important email addresses. So what you'll find is after today, you may think, crikey, there's a couple of questions I didn't ask, and I've just remembered I wanted to ask this, or this has come up from colleagues. Anything at all, please drop on these email addresses. You can also contact us direct. So we all talk frequently together and meet frequently. So if there's queries that we all need to cover, we do have these internal meetings, as you imagine. But these are really useful email addresses. Again, any larger queries could possibly be logged through these email addresses. I can see there's no further questions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to thank the panel for coming along today. We've got Andrew Neal talking about the quality and the quality processes. Thank you very much, Andrew. And Anne Harrod, as always, very, very helpful and helps pull a lot of these things together. Jason Marsland and Kevin Sparrow have been working on the plumbing and the electrical progression and apprenticeships. Input is very, very valuable to these presentations, supporting, bringing them together, supporting, presenting on these and answering questions. And of course, there's always Ian Roberts, who does a lot of work in the background, pulling together these presentations, the dates for these webinars, and helping with the advertising. And you know, it really wouldn't be possible without all the work that Ian puts on behind the scenes. So I'm sure you'll join me, all the delegates, in thanking Ian for pulling all this together. And also to all the delegates for coming along and listening to us today. We hope that you found it valuable. We hope it's kept you up to speed with the work that's taking place, and we've been able to answer some of your questions. Again, if there are further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. And if you'd like further keep in touch webinars, again, please put that on your feedback, and it just helps us put on extra sessions. And have a think about when you might want those sessions. We know it's a very busy time at this time of year at centres, so we're grateful you found the time to come and visit us and listen to us today. And if mornings are better, or afternoons, or an evening session sometimes, do you want something in September as a refresher? Have a think about some of those timings. But there don't seem to be any further questions. So if I first of all just ask the panel, is there anything else you'd like to get across before we officially close?
No,
Nothing
not
from
for
me.
me.
Thanks, David.
No, thank you. And really appreciate people's attendance, so thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I noticed a question had come up, but it's just someone saying thanks. So we're grateful for that. Thank you for letting us know that. So yeah, please, once again, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a nice evening, and we look forward to joining you all again very soon. Oh, very quick one. Working in excess of PowerPoint, we will be showing this as part of the follow-up. Any queries at all, please contact us. If you don't get access to that, please let us know and we can share it. It'll also be on the Skills for Wales website within a couple of days, along with the recording. Once again, thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day and see you all soon. Goodbye.